Hello everyone, my name is John Rush. Today we're going to be discussing Ivanti Patch for SCCM or System Center Configuration Manager, also known now as Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager. The reason that this product exists is that although Microsoft using the Windows Update and System Center do a pretty good job of patching the Microsoft applications, it tends to struggle quite a bit when it comes to third-party patching. Adobe, Java, browsers, those kinds of things. And so there needs to be a solution rather than a manual solution for being able to create and deploy those packages. The reason that's important is, and the number changes, but about 86% of all the reported vulnerabilities come from those third-party applications. Again, it's Adobe, it's Flash, it's browsers, whatever it might be. And what we have found over the years is that most organizations do not take the time or don't have the time to actually create and deploy the updates as needed for their environment. It turns out there are just way too many vendors to try to keep up. Again, Adobe, Java, 3 different browsers, what other tools you might have, multiple applications, multiple versions of those applications. I mean, you look at some of the Adobe updates; they come out on a very regular and aggressive basis. And then things like if I change something in Adobe, maybe like Flash, then I have to also make changes to my browsers. So what turns out is there's just not enough time. It takes about 4 to 6 hours per patch is the number that we've heard. So most just don't do it. When I ask the question to organization, what are you doing about patching today? They say System Center. I got to say, great. What are you doing about third-party patching? And they usually say we're creating our own manual. So what is the Ivanti Patch for SCCM? It is a plugin. It is a very small add-on to what is already existing. It uses the existing Microsoft System Center infrastructure. You're going to patch exactly the same way tomorrow as you did today. You're going to use the exact same agents without modification as you did today. And in reporting, even though we don't add any new reports specifically, the content that we provide to you is going to be fully integrated into System Center. So wherever there is a pick list, for example, in a listing of a report, and you want to see a report of applications, the third-party applications are going to be in the very same list that has the Microsoft applications. So again, there's really no additional hardware required to make this application work. It provides for a very rapid implementation. This is not something that takes weeks to implement. It literally takes just a few moments to install it. It takes probably 15 or 20 minutes to configure the certificates and those things that you need. And then it's actually ready to go right at that time. One of the other things we've done for you is there are a number of ways that organizations can learn and determine what's missing in their environment. One of them is something called a CVE import. So what happens is vulnerability scanning technology, Qualys, Nessus, Rapid7, Tenable, whatever name you're using out there. These tools they do more than just patches. They look at vulnerabilities across your entire organization, and they generate a list of what they call CVEs. These are critical vulnerabilities. And they provide that list in the form of a CVE-2020- and a number. We have the ability to import those patches, match them up with their appropriate KB article or update, and be able to present that information so you can scan and deploy based on that. And then finally, one of the things that many customers ask us is, well, we don't really know what we have out there. We are getting the software information from our agents, but we really don't have a way to really understand that. So one of the things we can do for you is, based on what your agents are telling you, we will take a look at the software information that you have and present that to you in the form of, here's the software that you have, and here are the patches that should be involved with those patches. Therefore, you have a very good understanding of the recommended updates in your environment. Now, as we go further, we'll talk about how we can manage these updates, but one of the things we do is we provide we provide the metadata, the detection and deployment logic to make that all happen. We provide that to you. We also allow you the ability to edit that metadata if you want to, even to the point of being able to add to the package, meaning a pre or post deployment process that you might want to execute. So to really understand how we work, the most important thing though is that we are providing to you information about updates. Just like Symantec has an antivirus definition file, Ivanti creates a patch definition file. So when a company like Adobe comes out with a security update, they tell you what the product is. They say this is a critical and important or important update. Here is that CVE information that I was talking about. And then they almost dare you to see if you can find the one that doesn't have some kind of a Google toolbar or something else attached to it. So what we do is we do this work for you. We present to you through our application updated patch information. The patch information is updated on Wednesdays and Fridays on a regular basis, always on Patch Tuesday, and in the case of a 0-day, the same day. This provides you the ability to know exactly what's going on in your environment and then present that information to you in a screen view. And then you can check the boxes or use a filtering mechanism to make a filter and choose which of those updates you want to publish into the System Center world, which is again WSUS and System Center. Now, to be more specific about how that works, here's a very rudimentary understanding of how System Center works in general when it comes to patching. So, for example, Microsoft comes out with a new update for, let's say, the operating system. They provide both the MSP, MSI, or EXE, the actual update itself, represented here by a red P, and then the detection and deployment logic to determine if that patch is applicable to a machine and how to deploy that patch with the appropriate command line switches. And so what happens is that information gets automatically fed into the WSUS world. Now, to be more specific, that red P, that patch, the actual MSI, MSP, or EXE, it is encapsulated in a CAB file, nothing more than a zip file, but it's got a .cab extension. So we store that CAB file and we digitally sign it. Microsoft digitally signs that content and puts it into what's called the WSUS content directory. That's a file folder in your environment. At the same time, the metadata, the detection and deployment logic, that information is driven into the WSUS database, which is a SQL Server database. And what happens, it inserts it into a row, KB 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, .NET update, blah, 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 and information about that. Then during a normal, what they call synchronization cycle, the information that has been added to the WSUS environment, the new updates, basically any unexpired update, is going to be synchronized with System Center. So that means the content flows over to the System Center side. Then when an agent, a System Center agent checks in, one of the possible checks that it runs is a software update check. It looks to see if it has any update that is necessary for its configuration. So based on my configuration, I see you have a .NET update. I need that update. Then what happens is an administrator, through a deployment process, either automatic or manual, will create a deployment, put that onto a distribution point. The information will be copied down into the client, installed, and life is good. When you add third-party content to this equation, there is no direct way to do it using the existing Microsoft infrastructure from the standpoint of Microsoft only creates Microsoft updates. And Microsoft digitally signs their content with a Microsoft signing cert. When Adobe comes out with an update, they create the patch itself, the MSI, MSP, or EXE. They put out bulletins that represent the information about the detection and deployment. And our team of people here at Ivanti, we create that patch metadata for you. And we combine that for you in a view inside of System Center. Again, you choose the ones that you want and you select a publish process. In the publish process, we are going to do exactly what Microsoft did. We're going to take that MSI, MSP, or EXE. We're going to put it into the form of a CAB file. We're going to digitally sign it, and we're going to put it in the very same WSIS content directory structure. So it's right alongside the Microsoft updates. The metadata is going to be published into the very same database table in the very next row. Just below that .NET is going to be an Adobe Acrobat update, blah, 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 blah. Again, what will happen is the next synchronization will pull over both the Microsoft and the new third-party applications that have been added. The same agent without any modification, next time it does its software update, will say, well, I need that .NET update. Oh, and I need that Adobe update. And again, an administrator on your side will create a deployment package, either automatically or manually, and make those available through the distribution point. So that's the basics of how this all works. So let's take a look at that. All right, so here I am inside of System Center. Let me bring this down so we can see a few more things. Here I'm inside of System Center, and what you can see here is under my All Software Updates, I have Microsoft updates, lots of those, and then here's an Adobe update that's required on a machine. We show the functionality exactly the same way. You deploy this exactly the same way you would deploy a Microsoft update. You have access to the same collections that you would normally use, and it allows you to work your way through that process. So the day-to-day functionality of System Center for most of the administrators using this product will not change from how they did it before. Again, the biggest difference is now they're going to have third-party content right alongside. And like I said earlier, all the content is completely integrated. So let's say that I go down and decide that I want to do a search perhaps by product or limit my information by product. As you can see here, the things that I have published, the 7-zip and the Adobe updates and these other third-party updates that are out here. Here's Firefox. They show up right alongside all of the other information. You can also use the same search tools as you always do. So for example, if I say I'm looking for Adobe, it'll show me both the Microsoft and, oops, let me clear that criteria. There we go. And we'll see all of the Adobe updates available to us. So again, it's a matter of understanding that the way that you're working today doesn't change. I can't say that enough from the standpoint of using this every single day. Now let's enter the realm of where Ivanti helps. So again, these are software updates, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this icon called Ivanti Patch. What it's going to do is it goes out and checks for newer catalogs, so it always makes sure it's working with the latest copy of our metadata, that XML content that we were talking about. I have an automatic filter that I've got set up called latest not published. And if I open up, for example, the Adobe, I can see I have a number of different products under there, as well as a number of different versions of that product. So these are updates that have come out recently. If I click on one of these, I can see down here at the bottom of the screen that this is a critical update. Here's the actual bulletin ID. Look at the number of CVEs that this is associated with. This is a security update. Here is the actual MSP file. And if you wanted to, you could go right here and download that file. You don't have to do it. We're going to take care of you. But if you wanted to, you could do that. And then there's a number of descriptives down here about what's going on, supersedence information, and so forth. So let's go ahead and open up one of these, take a look at it. Let's find something a little newer. Here we go. Let's go ahead and deploy this security update. Cool. And we're going to go ahead and publish it. Now in the publish process, again, what we're doing is we're going to go out and download that particular file. We're going to create this interesting hexadecimal name file that's going to go into a subdirectory in your WSIS content directory. And I'm not going to use any other options here. I'm just going to say, let's go ahead and do it now. So we are now in the process of publishing that content and to the System Center environment. Now, and again, in reality, what we're doing is we're publishing right now into the WSUS environment. So if I go up here and open up one of our log files called the auto publish log, we will see that we are in the process of downloading that file from the manufacturer. So first thing we do is make sure it matches the hash, the algorithm that our engineering team discovered when they were putting this information together. So Adobe hasn't changed the file or anything like that. After it's downloaded the file, again, it creates the directory. This is that crazy directory we were talking about in the WSS world. So if I wanted to, I can go find this later. Then it actually creates the if you will, the cab file. And here you can see it go through that process. So in this cab file, again, what we're doing really is we're just zipping up. That's really what a cab file is. We're just zipping up that in this case, that MSP file, and then we'll digitally sign that file. So we'll let this run in the background. Now back on the System Center side, we can see now that it's packaging it up for us. It's doing all the work for us, and eventually it'll get to published. Then after that, then another process, again, what's called the synchronization process, that is what actually makes it available through the all software updates. Right now, based on just publishing, we have all we've done is we've injected that information into the WSUS world. The next synchronization plus a couple of other settings will determine whether or not those updates get put in the all software updates. For example, under the managed products, we have to make sure that we select which products we want to support. We can add them by name or however we want to do it, but we can add those capabilities as necessary. But again, the idea is we've driven the content into WSUS. We have that we're still creating the cab file. So we're still creating that cab file in the background, and that information is going to get stored. So I'm going to open it up here just a little bit more and say, okay, so that's the most basic fundamental. We found an update, we pushed a button to publish it, and it drove information in. More than likely, you're only going to do that on a selective basis. Most of the time, you're going to want to manage what we call filters. So let's say I've got one that's called my latest not distributed. And if I take a look at that, this is a filter just like you'd see in an Outlook or something like that. If published is equal to no, if superseded is not equal to yes, and was created within the last 365 days. Let's change that. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I'll just edit that again. Let's change this to 180 days. Now that I've applied this filter, I'm going to have less environment here and less applications that I'm managing. Maybe, for example, I might want to have just the third-party applications that I've created in another process. The point is you can control what you're looking at through this filter, and based on that information, I can go up to my scheduled task and say, you know what I'd like to do? I would like to, on a regular basis, I want to have a task that says at 4:20 a.m. On the let's just do some fun here. The second Tuesday of the month, so that's Patch Tuesday. I want to go ahead and download and publish my third-party updates. I want to then also synchronize at the end of that process, and I can schedule this. Now, once it's been scheduled, it will execute every week, every month until we tell it to stop, and it'll populate doing the same thing we were just doing before. Once it drives that information down and we do that synchronization, and again, I'll kind of show you what the synchronization looks like. So there's a System Center log file called wsync manager log. And what this one shows you is the syncing process, meaning that it'll tell you it found or deleted or updated all these different files, all these synchronizations. So synchronizing all these files. That's all that is. That's just copying information from WSUS and putting it into, if you will, the configuration management place where the all software updates, when it looks up patches that it needs for a client, that's where it'll look. Now, the other thing that we've also allowed you to do is, even though we believe, again, that we've done a pretty good job mapping what you might need, we also give you the ability to edit that content. Now, you can edit both the metadata itself as well as the actual package, meaning that I can change the detection information. I can change, maybe I want to change by command line switch. Maybe I want to change something there. Maybe I want to change the description that's being displayed on the screen. Maybe I want to change the criticality of the update. Perhaps I need to take a look at the install rules and make those changes. And then finally, like I said, and if needed, you can also go out and browse for your own PowerShell, executable code, batch files, whatever you might need. Bring those in, and then say in a pre-process, go ahead and run the batch file. Do whatever it is you want to do. So you can edit the content as well as the package. Now, if you make the same changes all the time, we also have a template library that allows you to create, for example, an option. Let's go ahead and edit this one. It allows you to do that pre and post process we were just talking about by pulling in the files that you need and then using that template, so that if I want to, rather than having to rewrite that every single time, I simply associate the template that I want. It's now associated with that particular file. As you can see, it's associated here. That means that it's going to apply that no matter what. So I don't have to go in and physically edit this particular one. This template's going to overlay on top of it. So it makes it real easy for managing, from version to version, having to do the same kinds of things. Now, the one last thing I want to talk about, or actually two more things, and then we'll be finished here, and that is, the first one is, I've showed you a little bit about how you can use filtering to manage the machines, to manage the updates that you want to be able to take care of. One of the other things that can happen, like I said earlier, is you might get a report from some other tool, a vulnerability scanning technology, that has a list of missing CVEs. And what we can do is we can go out and browse that file. So we can go out and find that file, open it up, and map all of the appropriate updates to their appropriate the CVE to the actual update. As you can see, we got a very large list here. I can then choose what I want. Take a look at that. This is what it is now inside of my filtering system, and I can go ahead and publish this right now. So very quick, very easy way to get that information out there. The last thing that happens often is I don't know what I need to patch. I don't even know what to publish in the first place. So one of the things we can do for you is we can go out and take a look at your system, find out what your agents are telling you is installed on those systems, and then show you all of the appropriate updates that are necessary for all those applications. So again, we can create a smart filter with that and use that to go ahead and patch. So we really help you a lot of different ways in that mode. Now, the final thing is that after everything's running smoothly and the way you want it to work, there may be times that you might want to set up alerts. So under our under our software reporting, so under our monitoring, we have a section called Ivanti Patch, and from here I can do alerts. So for example, I can set up an alert that says, notify me if an error occurs in the process of downloading. I want to make sure that happens. Let me know if something happens during the download of the automatically published data, or the publication of that data failed. The point is we have automatic alerts that can be generated and let you know what's going on. And then finally, we also have the ability, slow it down just a little bit. We also present to you a calendar of any scheduled events. Now, I don't have any scheduled events here, but if I did, I would have that. So I'd be able to see on this calendar when I'm going to be downloading content from our website, publishing that content, and whether or not we publish it in. So it makes it really easy to understand what's going on inside of your world. So that's it. The patch for SCCM is very easy to use. There's very little training that has to go on. Again, it is not necessary for everybody to know how to use it. In fact, many of our customers install the plugin on a remote console so that the admin team doing the actual patching never actually see anything that says the word Ivanti. All they see are patches, just like they do today. With that, I'm going to close it up. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.